Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the affiliate of the International Play Association. And so as part of our efforts to promote play, we're happy to introduce you to our Porch Play Chats. And these are conversations that focus on a wide range of topics from experts who are just as passionate about play as we are. So you can find the latest Porch Play Chats and learn more about IPA-USA on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube, or by visiting our website at IPAUSA.org. I'm Deb Lawrence, president of IPA-USA, and with me on the porch is Lisa Murphy. Hi, Lisa, one of our board members.
Hello.
And Whitney Woodward, also one of our board members. Hi, Whitney. Good morning.
Hi.
We're so glad you're here. So today's Porch Play Chat is going to be all about virtual school doesn't have a playground, lessons learned. Go Whitney.
All right. Well, I am so excited to be here and talking about the virtual playground. So we came through the spring with half of the spring being virtual, being from home. And then right now, if you're not watching this in real time, we're in the summer. So still looking at this coming fall for the school year. Is it going to be in-person learning or is it going to be virtual learning again? And whichever one it will be, recess is going to look a lot different. And everyone who is watching this, I assume, is passionate about recess. And if you have not already read Olga Jarrett's recess paper, which is on the IPA website for members, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's great research and documentation on the importance of recess, things you already know with the research behind it, demonstrating the importance of recess and what it provides for children. But just kind of looking at this past spring, children were going through a lot of, whether you want to call it trauma or displacement or just this weird space where they are at school but online. Children might have had parents at home. Parents were working as essential workers, and hats off to all of them and thank you. But also, of course, looking at, what do children do to get recess? Because the big things that children get from recess, of course, they get physical activity, they get the social emotional competencies, which includes connecting to other children and to their teachers on a relaxed, personal level. And without that physical recess, having them together, how can we make virtual recess meaningful for children when there's no playground? And a lot of things that I've seen that were done well were, again, letting children have some choice. Here's a break time. Here are some options for what you can do for recess at home, because that choice piece is so important. Again, it's not free choice. It's not do whatever you want to do, but at least letting the children have some agency on what they want to do. And of course, on the, screen end of things, I know we all want them to get away from screens, but on the screen end of things, there are some, physical activity breaks, which get that part of it. But then what gets children talking to each other? And this was a piece that I think is really going to be the biggest learning curve going into the fall, is giving kids a chance to get to know each other. Because, you think back to your own childhood, where did you make your friends? On the playground, of course. Or at the lunch table. Yeah. And that's where you made your buddies. That's where you're allowed to be social and practice out these skills on how to be a person, how to listen, how to have a conversation, how to, express yourself. So that's the one piece that I felt like is going to be the most challenging for schools to support, especially if children start the year at home, because it's a new group of kids, especially for some children who might be more naturally reticent. How do we get them to engage with other children through Zoom? I know we're all a little zoomed out at this point, but how do we get them to connect with each other in a meaningful way? If we can get the physical piece, if we can get those choice, free choice, allowing that true free time to let them think for themselves. What am I in the mood for? I might just need to unwind and decompress for a little bit. Or I need to really get things out. I need to engage with people. You know, we've got those extrovert children that need that people time. How do we meet everybody's needs for that recess time that might be virtual? And I know that there's...
Can I clarify 1 second sorry. So would you even think that, though, I'm not challenging you. Can you
do it, Lisa? We're friends.
Can you really call it recess if it's on a screen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's called recess because there's not really another name for it right now, but I absolutely agree. It's not really recess. This is like,
it's like I could see like a large motor break, like, hey, okay, we're all going to kind of communally watch this, one of those things you can see on YouTube and stuff. But I would almost imagine if it was like, okay, guys, you got 20 minutes, come back in 20. Here are 5 suggestions that you might be able to do outside. If you have access, right? Because we know that that's an issue too, is that not everybody, we can't just say, go take a walk through the neighborhood, because that's making a huge assumption, right? That everybody has a neighborhood that they can go take a walk to. But I would love to know more about how we are getting them outside during that virtual time frame.
And that's a good point, because they did call them at a lot of schools physical activity breaks as opposed to recess. So that's a good point, and to that, if you break recess apart into, being outside, the social emotional piece, the physical activity, if we're not going to have recess in the way it's, kind of, for lack of a better term, recess in the truest sense of the word, how can we get children those 3 things plus all the other pieces with it to compensate for that lack of recess with their friends, which we know they need. And that's kind of what I've been playing around with. Okay, we can get the physical activity piece with the physical activity break, but getting them, to your point, outside, which isn't easy for everyone to do. And especially too, for those of us in hot southern states, it's going to be 105 degrees through September. So how do we get kids outside, making that happen early when it's cooler, finding ways to have water play outside, to make that fun for them and something the kids can do themselves. Because if their parents are both working and don't have time to do it, to set up, obstacle courses for the children, how can we empower children to do that for themselves? But then also that social emotional piece, the social particularly, because we want children to know how to talk to each other and to make eye contact and to be able to know back, someday when we get to whatever our new normal is, that it's okay to touch each other. Not right now, of course, wash your hands 20 seconds. We all know the rules. But what will that look like in the fall? But I have seen a lot of great examples of teachers giving options to children. So they really do have that choice piece. And also teachers using breakout rooms, which again, it's online. You don't have that face-to-face, but we're working through barriers here, right? So having those breakout rooms for children where it's a smaller group, where it's easier for the kids to talk out loud and make connections to each other, especially if it's children they don't know well, kind of like how the 3 of us are talking right now, we can speak freely, where if it's 20 of us, I might not be able to find my voice because that's just not who my personality is, right? So I think it's really a great challenge for parents and educators and school administrators to be very cognizant of what recess provides. And we can't provide it all now in one chunk, but how can we break those chunks apart to make sure children can get them?
It's actually calling to mind for me the conversations that we were having even before COVID, that gym and PE are entirely different than recess, right? So even totally before this became another barrier to kids getting outside and moving around, we were already aware of the fact that, gym class is not recess. Recess is not. Wander around and poke the bugs or play some hopscotch or interact with or play tag or whatever. Nobody's telling me what to do. And probably was more active body-wise, because we do know that during gym and PE class prior to all of this, that kids spent so much more time standing around waiting to do something than they actually did engage in physical activity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
And-
also going back to that choice piece, they get to choose. I mean, they need that, because otherwise, if they don't get to choose and they're supposed to take for 7 hours, what are we doing to our children at that point? I mean, my goodness, how are we letting them grow?
So I'm wondering if we could offer some suggestions to families. Like, you know, families, children have choice. They have materials in their home that they can do things with. And if the teacher needs to say it's you're going to take this break, and if you're a kindergartner, you're going to go build something with 25 pieces of Legos or 25 pieces of something, and you're going to show it to us when we come back in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if they have to throw some content in there, children still can go choose what it is that they're going to be building with. They have a purpose in kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
first and second and third grade, but it's
almost like a prompt.
yes,
Maybe a prompt, because
it's
it
a
might
prompt.
springboard into something else.
Mhm,
It might be the only thing I do,
mhm.
but it's more than maybe just hitting the pause button and then wandering around my room.
Mm-hmm.
Or
You know?
getting on my iPad and playing a video game, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I worry about. I worry that they're already so much on screens, right? So because they're going to virtual school, which I think unfortunately is what we still need to do until we get a vaccine, but that's just me. But they're on screen so much, I just worry that if they're given without some prompt, that they're just going to go to the TV, or they're going to go to the iPad, or they're going to go and do something that may not be active learning.
I wonder if even a prompt or a middle ground would be take 25 bits of something and go sit out on your porch, or go outside to your yard, or if you have a neighborhood park or a playground, like, can we take it outside? We might not be telling you to, do 25 jumping jacks, but can we at least get you out, get some sun, get exposure to some fresh air? So it might not be recess per se, but it is, to quote one of our other porch play chats, Rusty, it's a baby step, right? Rusty Keeler tells us it's about baby steps. If right now what we can do to just get you outside a little bit more is have you bring a couple books to go do some independent reading, but you're in the sunshine for a little bit.
And
Yes.
I think absolutely, and I think the best examples I've seen of it are ones where they have maybe like a tic-tac-toe board, which is a lot of things I'd seen, at schools. Here's the tic-tac-toe board. Find 2, find 3. Here are your choices, and they're all super open-ended and wonderful. Go outside and write about what you see. And there you got your writing. It's got to have a beginning, middle, end. And again, this isn't play necessarily, but it checks off one of those boxes that they're missing from recess. So we're getting those baby steps in, but we're finding creative ways to do it. So you're getting choice. One's maybe call a grandparent on the phone and ask them how their day was, and find out what they're doing. Okay, we're working on these social things, how to have a conversation, have a nice conversation with someone. But looking for ways to piece it together as best we can, because it's not going to be perfect at all, but we have to keep trying. I'm
thinking also about parallel play, which
Yes.
usually we stop thinking about after they hit around 3, 4, or 5. But I saw actually an image on social media earlier today talking about how children in neighborhoods are starting to have play dates within, like, socially distancing themselves, right? Which seems odd, because you're like, you're like 8, you should be a little closer together and engage, but they can't be, right? But I'm finding, while in real-time conversation here, Whitney, I'm thinking about how to harness some of that recess and plopping it into the virtual experience. And I'm wondering if there are ways, and I'm sure there are, for people to know who's in the neighborhood. I might not be able to, like, get all up in your business and play, a game with you that's in close proximity, but we probably could draw some sidewalk chalk hopscotch and do hopscotch together within socially. We could probably play jump rope if we got a long enough piece of rope. I didn't know this many kids lived in my neighborhood until all of this happened. I didn't. So I was like good fairy plopping bubbles on driveways. People thought, who's the creepy girl living down the street running through, No, but I put sidewalk chalk on out and, and then I don't see them using it, which kind of breaks my heart. But, at least the invitation was made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of here are some things that you can be doing to get yourself out.
Yeah. Oh, the number of kids bike riding. I jokingly call them the biker gang in my neighborhood, and a bunch of kids. And it's nice because they have to be distant. You can't ride a bike right next to somebody. You're going to knock them over. But there are ways to do that and to connect and have those pieces. I saw on the interwebs, and I admired it enough to screenshot it. But that's where I stopped. Someone turned their driveway into a chutes and ladders board, which I thought was just the coolest thing ever. But a way to get it engaged. You can stay apart from people, and now that I think too that children are able to wear masks, and now that we found comfortable ones that kids can put on for themselves, and of course that's a whole different conversation for another day on children and masks. But there are ways for children to be there with each other, and at least make eye contact. Which is another way too of looking at ways, if school is back in session in the fall. Kind of part two to all this, what does that look like? Because I know, I know the school I'm at right now, we have reopened, and what does recess look like for us right now? With spraying down playground equipment, only certain pieces can be used by different classes, and then we've got a big plaza that's just a big concrete area. And so each class brings out their own bin of hula hoops and balls and things like that all get wiped down. So it's not a shared space, but we're bringing the equipment out there. So that way, to your point earlier, Lisa, jump ropes and things that we can do together comfortably. There are ways to do it. You just have to be really thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
Because you can still get parts of it. But again, it's not going to look like we're used to it looking with recess.
Well, and I think the most important thing for people to hear is that kids need choice. You started out with kids need choice. We need to provide opportunities for them to connect, even if it's online in the little group. What do they call them? The rooms?
Breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Breakout room.
What if we can give them some prompts and say for the next, because I've been speaking with primary grade teachers. One of my grad students is a kindergarten teacher, and she said, "Oh my God," when they had to go online, and she said, "Just help me work through this. What do I do with kindergartners? I
was the parent of a kindergartner this year, and in the Zoom meetings, I would look at him because you can see your own face. I look at him and he goes, because it was the coolest thing for him to see his own face doing that. And his teachers were amazing and so great with kind of getting everybody back together, but they're 5 and 6.
She was like, what do I do with it? And so we brainstormed different things to do. And she said the most important thing was for the first 20 minutes of every first day Zoom meeting, and they only kept them for 20 or 25 minutes. She read stories to them. She asked students to act out certain pieces in their room as she read the story. I mean, she was really creative, but I think the important piece is that they need breaks. You can't just be here and be present, and you need prompts and choice. So if we can just find ways to allow them that social interaction, even if they want to just go into, he wants to put them into rooms and say, tell me 3 things you did yesterday that you've never done before. And that can be the challenge, right? 3 things that you've never done before. And they get to talk about it in their rooms, in the little breakout room. So I do think that we have to, I want to say facilitate learning, but make sure that recess and breaks are available to everyone, and that there might be some prompt to keep them off of a screen, going from one screen to another screen.
Also teachers and parents could be talking about what outdoor access do they have? What do we have? Instead of making assumptions one way or the other, even if it's the little balcony on the apartment, is there something we can bring outside so that there is some semblance of outside. Maybe I can bring the iPad outside and still be talking to a buddy while we're playing Legos outside, or while we're bringing sand in a dishpan outside. You know, how can we be as, I call it developmentally inappropriately appropriate as possible.
Right.
While we try to
Unpack that for a minute.
this. It's the only phrase I've ever coined so far. That's it.
Copyright, Lisa Murphy.
Exactly. Yeah. But I know that when I think recess, I would want to continually be challenging folks to have that be as outside as possible as it would be, as it could be.
Well, and child directed, absolutely. I mean, this is their time. They're being told what to do all day long.
All the time.
Screen where they have to sit and listen. I mean, they can't even get up and ask to go to the bathroom when they need that break for Zoom. They've got to pay attention, and they need it. They need that time to feel like they're in charge. That's a big part of what recess does. I'm in charge during recess. This is my time. And how do we get that when so much is regulated right now for them?
And so much is controlled. And so the other thing I want us to think about before we close for this Play Porch Chat is, what would be the balance? What do we know about attention, right? So how many of these
is after physical activity?
Yeah. How many of these little recess breaks should teachers be planning? It's not just one recess after lunch, right? No, there have to be many. But so what do we think about that? How can we offer some advice on how you sort of plan the day so that they have these brain breaks, as well as we hope physical breaks, within that daily structure? Because they can't just sit here and listen all the time.
I think there's a lot of good curriculum. I mean, I'm very familiar with the elementary school curriculum that are offered, you know, yoga during the day, you know, yoga as transition breaks, physical breaks. There used to be, I'm not sure if it's still around, but Take 10, which had physical activity transitions that tied into different curriculum, you know, and again, it's regimented. It doesn't allow the children to have as much choice, but allows them to kind of, you know, collectively get up, take a breath, be somewhere else for a minute, and then come back. But I do think there's a lot out there. And I think for, you know, a lot of educators, you know, myself included, you know, we're being asked to step way outside our comfort zone.
Way outside.
Like everybody's, you know, we talk about being a risk taker, like everybody has to be a risk taker right now because it's all new. We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But to your point, Deb, like, we just got to keep trying. It's there. We will figure it out. I mean, that's the fun part of education, right? It never ends. But I think, you know, with those goals in mind, especially during the summer, it gives us a lot of hope and optimism for what the year can look like if we can find ways to engage and allow children to feel like they're a part of what's going on, even if we're not together.
Yeah.
And I think some of that would come with very candid conversations between the teaching staff or the providers, with the parents. You know, give me an idea of what you realistically have access to, so that when I'm looking at 20 kindergartners or pre-Kers, and I can say, okay, I want you back in 30 minutes, you know, mom or somebody's going to help you, tell you when that is, but here are choices. Here are the prompts, but I'm sending you those prompts specific to what I've received as practical, realistic choices from the parents and the guardians that might be guiding the children as they do that. Because, you know, you don't want to just say, go outside for 20 minutes and really not have any idea in your head what that means to those 20 children that you're looking at.
Yeah, so it could also be, you know, if you can, or go find something go find something that you want to share with your friends and come back in, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But getting them outside at least, Rusty just was talking about, what was the study? Was it Sweden? That said children, Norway maybe.
And it was in 1962 or something.
Yeah, so we really like this. And it said children should not be inside for more than 2 hours a day. So
think about that. Look at the reframing, right? Because here we're like, you better be outside for 2 hours.
Wow.
And they're like, you're only allowed to be inside for 2 hours.
So are they camping? Like, what's happening here?
No.
Where do they sleep?
That's
That
cool.
was it.
Sleep outside.
That was
Oh,
it.
Sleep outside.
Yeah.
Awesome.
In Norway, it's cold there. So,
And rainy here.
and oh, you're raining again. Oh my God. Oh
We're gonna have
my.
to go inside.
Oh no. Okay. So no.
Today's nature is provided by nature. This is my nature break.
Yes. I was wondering why you were kind of moving over because you were getting
Because
wet.
I'm getting wet.
Oh my God. So keep that in mind, I think, as we close up. You know, if in 1962 Norway thought the rule should be that you can only be inside for 2 hours a day, focus on that as you're beginning to plan for whatever comes next. Oh, I see it. My God, it's like a
That's intense.
it is intense.
Yeah, it'll
Lisa.
be over in like 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
But for the next 10 minutes, it's going to flood.
It's gonna flood. Build the ark. Okay, Whitney. Whitney, thanks so much for being with us today. And if you'd like to hear more Porch Play Chats, be sure to visit our website at IPA-USA.org. And whatever you do, just keep playing.
Nice to see you, Whitney. Bye.
Nice to see y'all. Thanks.